This is a quick sea review of day 5, June 15th, 2014, of the 18-meter nationals for the U.S. The winner for the day, surprise, surprise, Doug Jacobs, almost 99 miles per hour, almost 300 miles. It was a 3-hour mat task, 3 turn points. You can see it depicted here in the 2D. Let me press play so it goes away. Start here at Minden, start 91, the north start, up to Tiger, which is to the northeast of Minden. Let me zoom out just a little bit. Then up to Air Sailing, and I believe that's a 5-mile radius at Tiger, a 10-mile radius at Air Sailing, and then a 20-mile radius around Hawthorne. The weather was interesting. There was nice Q today. Actually, a lot of little wavelets in the morning, which gave way to nice Q later in the day, although some did find wave occasionally, but I'm not sure that it was large enough or strong enough to really be faster. And there was nice Q into almost all the way into Air Sailing, but it was dry up here to the north. And then there was beautiful Q back in here to the south, although it was overdeveloped here over the high ground. So there was an interesting question, and Doug Jacobs played it perfectly. He went outside the thick cirrus, or sorry, the thick overdevelopment, and stayed in the best sun and the strongest Q around the edge, and then bounced back here to the back of the turn. The people who came to the ridge looking for Q found weaker lift and a little bit of a decay. So you had to get to the sun, and I'll show you how that worked as we go through the task. And then back through this really strong area of Q on the way back. It was enormously fast for me. I think I had like 120 mile an hour average from this point back. But and we'll look at the statistics to see that. But some people also struggled. If you weren't high and right at cloud base, there was a little bit of difficulty. So this was a great task, very fast, very strong, and good clouds to work with. So let's jump in. Just jumping back through the finishers. So first was Doug Jacobs. Again, 981 points, 99 miles per hour, 300 miles. Second, Sean Fittler, 943 points, 95 miles per hour, and 285. Third, Gary Ittner. Fourth, Pete Alexander. And fifth was Rick Andrebo in an ASW 27, which is fairly impressive. And sixth was Sam Zimmerman. And I'm going to have those 5 scores and statistics here down on the bottom, so you can check that out as we go along. So let's jump in. So you can see Doug Jacobs, Dennis Linekin, Tom Kelly, Ray Gimme, Rick Walters. So I'm not sure who sniffed today. There's Martin Grant in the back, up over the pine nuts. So as we launched, again, there was just a massive amount of these wave-looking clouds. Rick referred to them as wavelets. There was nothing interconnected, so you couldn't go a long distance up and down it, but there was really strong lift and definitely wave high up close to the cloud. You can see there, this day I really struggled to get up. What am I down to here? AGL, I'm down to 1,500 feet. So this was one of the tougher days to get up. But fortunately here, once again, Dave Nadler and the group were marking it nicely. And I'll I'll speed it up until we get to the start. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit on the 2D as well. So once the group got high, we're underneath those numerous wave clouds, and you'll see people exploring, running back and forth up those cloud lines and trying to figure out what was going to be better. Working the thermals, was there a wave that went higher above? How high did it go? It was very confusing, and I wasn't really quite sure what was going to work. So what I did is I spent a little time chasing around Gary Ittner and Pete Alexander, just keeping an eye on them and trying to, you can see right here, you can see Tom Kelly stepping up in the wave. So figure eighting back and forth, you know, up the wave. So there definitely was wave working there, the blue track. And Gary and Pete recognized it as well, and I just couldn't get into it like they could. So I don't know if I'm missing the right spot, if it was narrow. But anyway, I follow them. I know that they've gotten higher, and I know that they've gotten higher relatively quickly. So I'm a little nervous about what's happening. Am I missing something? But from that point, they really didn't gain a ton. And the weather for the day was, there was supposed to be an inversion at 14,000 feet. And that was supposed to be strong. And there was high cirrus that was going to come in late in the day. So this once again, it was a day you wanted to go early. And there were clouds today. So there was definitely something to work with. There was obviously good strength in the climbs. There was good strength in the clouds. So I wanted to go first, get out ahead, go fast, and you know, let the fast. I was willing to give away a couple minutes if some of the fast guys caught me. But I didn't want to wait around a long time and get caught. You can see Doug over here by himself descending down to the start altitude. And I'm over here working in a massive gaggle. And I noticed that Doug always finds a way to start generally away from the group, which I find very, very interesting. I'm surprised there aren't more people just keeping an eye on him. But I'm over here in this very large gaggle. So there we go, up through 12,000. And I've started here just about the same time as Doug, although a little higher than Doug. Doug's down at 11.6 and I'm at 12.9. And I think I left this climb, which was 5 knots or so. What's Pete got? Yeah, they're all already out of the climb anyway, but there was a much nicer looking cloud here just outside the start cylinder, so I decided to go for it, and yeah, 8.6 knots, and here comes the group chasing me. So so I was able to get up to 14,000 feet, roughly 3,000 feet above Doug, and that's a pretty good start. So I'm out clean. I'm higher and ahead of everybody behind, and there's good clouds ahead to work with. So very, very happy with that start again. So what's Doug find here? A miss. You can see us here on the 2D over here on the right side. So Doug's really searching and really low. So not a very good start. Although I'm sure, no, 4.3 knots. It's down to 10.8. And I'm at almost 12.8. So 2,000 foot advantage, and I'm ahead. And I think he started quite just a little bit ahead of me. So a really, really good start. Dave Nadler looks like he got a good start as well. So Ray Gimme there just behind, Martin Grant, Rick Walters, Tom Kelly, Tim Wells, and Whiskey 3. So I imagine that I hit a cloud here, it didn't work, and I decided rather than going straight ahead that there was something worth deviating for, and there was 7.3 knots for 3,000 feet, 4 minutes of climb. So Ray's essentially caught up, but at least I found solid lift here. And there was always a big flat spot over these valleys. Generally, the climbs were at the edges of the high ground, and you always wanted to leave the high ground high and be as high as you could over the valleys. So let's do a spot check here with Doug. So I'm just leaving the thermal. I'm at 14.5 and Doug's at 13.5. So he found a good climb over here and caught back up quite a bit. And he's still hungry to climb higher. So there's 6.3 knots for another 1,500 feet. But generally a pretty good start. So the fast starter, Ray Gimme, without question, and then I probably the second best start. I know Ray left the start cylinder behind me there. So he's essentially at my same altitude, and we're tied at that point. Dennis Linekin. So this is worth noting. At this particular point, it's completely blue, and there's really strong cloud right here left of course line into the air sailing turn area, and I decide, probably wrongly, that I don't want to dig deeply into Tiger. I'm still at 13,000 feet. I've got plenty of altitude. I probably should have gone at least to the middle, but I turned here very early, and that probably cost me a little bit on Doug. I don't know if the whole amount. He was 4 or 5 miles an hour faster, but I just, first turn, it's relatively strong. We're finding 7-knot thermals. It was a big mistake not to go fully into the first turn. So there goes DJ at 13,000, and he's going to take it right into the back of Tiger. Well, not quite the back, but almost. Ray Gimme goes right to the back, as does Martin, and as does Dave Nadler. So anyway, I'm off to the races here. I want to get to these clouds, and you can see I'm sinking like a rock. Only 34 LD. I was going very fast at this point, 130, but I'm into the wind, about 15 miles per hour of wind here. There are clouds, there are wisps and clouds here over the high ground, and I'm just going fast here, trying to get to the next big climb and consolidate the gains of the guys behind. And what do I find? Almost 8 knots for 4,000 feet, 5 minutes of climbing, and right over the high ground, right, just on the downwind side of the high ground at that altitude. So I started even with DJ, and here at this point, I'm at 13. He's 2,300 feet below, and where's Ray? Gimme. And I've gained back out on Ray a little bit as well. But 4 Bravo has come back into the picture. Rick Walters. He's sort of caught up there. But I remember feeling really good at this point because I could see a lot of gliders coming in a lot lower. I remember seeing DJ, although I didn't know that was him. And off we go. I think at this point we're bumping through clouds. So DJ pulls into a miss there, but he's starting to work the stronger clouds. I found that good climb, so I don't want to deviate over to them as much. 4 Bravos, the first into the turn cylinder by a large margin. And I'm just a little higher than him, so it's essentially, he's the big leader at this point, I would say. And you can see the air sailing turn here. And you can see my course up into the turn. So 6.6 knots for 1,300 feet, so finding 6 to 8 knots pretty consistently. And DJ's struggling a little bit, so somehow he looks like he climbed going straight. Yeah, look at that. He's going up and up. He must have found wave or something, because he was pretty low, and here he is. I don't know, it's just Doug Jacobs stuff. And I thought I had a couple thousand feet above him, but he's basically caught up now, even though he's a little behind. And Rick is just tearing up there in 4 Bravo. So 3rd place for the day here, Papa 7. There's 7 Victor, Ray Gimme, and 4 Bravo. A little bit of a miss for him. So I come by just a little bit above him, and he's climbing only at 2.8 knots there. Interesting. So DJ is much higher behind, but I'm happy to be going into the high ground here. Down to 11,000. Miss. Clearly hoping for a thermal here, down to 10, well, another miss. Climbed a little bit though, 11,000. So Tom Kelly caught up a little bit. Here's 7 Victor and Papa 7. So another 6.6 knot climb for me, but I just saw Papa 7's back here in 8.8 knots, and he takes that up almost 6,000 feet. So that's an enormous climb. So that is going to put him back in the game pretty big time. And Doug's going right to the back of the cylinder over here. Doug, every day we went into air sailing, did not take this high ground. He always took this other line here. He must know something about air sailing that the rest of us didn't. You can see Tango Alpha is doing that, and you can see Yankee Oscar is doing that. But everybody else took this line of these larger mountains here slightly to the east. Very interesting. You can see us here on the 2D as well. So I'm climbing at 6.6. Ray Gimme and Papa 7 and Gary Ittner are climbing here at 8.8 knots. Look at them go. And Tom Kelly come by me, and 4 Bravo is just about even with us as well. So the group is kind of coalescing here into a small gaggle headed back to the final turn point, the Hawthorne turn point. You can see 7 Victor, Ray Gimme, and Papa 7, Gary Ittner coming out of there. Just enormous climb here at the very back of the turn. Perfect spot for the climb. So a little bit of deviation for some clouds, and a miss. And I think this one's going to work. This was a strong cloud. So yeah, 8 knots. TJ's found himself another 8.8 knot climb here by himself. It's absolutely amazing. And here come Papa 7 and Ray Gimme catching up with that huge climb they took out of the back of the turn. So Tom and Rick leave first, and here I am just sort of neck and neck with Papa 7 and Ray. So let me zoom out here a little bit, just do an update on Doug. So Doug's taking the western line here down into this turn. Hawthorne is right here on the back side of this ridge. This is Mount Grant. And you can see here my track down to the spot where I turn. And what we're looking at here, a good queue, but overdevelopment here over the mountains. So this is getting overdeveloped. There's no sun on the ground here, but there is sun on the ground over here. And the question is, do you go for the high ground, which is almost consistently better, but it's overdeveloped and there's no sun? Or do you look for thermals along the sun's edge here, which are also over irrigated fields in the middle of this valley, in sort of a known sinkhole? And what happens is most of us commit to the ridge and get a little slow and have trouble finding climbs and get down on the ridge or the mountain range. And Doug Jacobs goes around, deviates out here quite a bit, but is in stronger cumulus that's probably caused by the much stronger sun on the ground. And there you can see he's headed for that pretty consistently, and I'm here with a group kind of following the group mentality, which maybe isn't, so there's probably something to learn here. And I was thinking it, and if I was by myself I probably would have done it, but I was with the group, and you got 7 Victor here, you got 4 Bravo here, Gary Ettner, who's flown at Minden a bunch, and I just thought we were doing the right thing. So 145 miles an hour. We're really going fast, and there's another 10 knot climb, 9.5 knots for 2,500. In fact, I think that's my strongest climb of the day. Although 7 Victor here does 3,200 for 10.2 knots. So I've said this before, Ray Gimme here in 7 Victor, he won the 15-meter nationals just a couple weeks after this day, and no one climbs better than this guy. And I gotta say, Tom Kelly is really good as well. They both outclimbed me a number of times, and I never quite figured out why. But here they are doing it again. I guess it's a different thermal, but they're strong pilots. Anyway, I'll take 9.5 knots for 2,500 feet. That's good. Let's see Doug over here. He's actually almost going back to the pine nuts. Alright, so interesting here to watch how this develops. Obviously, for all intents and purposes, it's even. I'm probably behind this group because I was the first starter. So all these guys are essentially ahead of me. I end up second for the day. Doug wins the day. And Papa 7 ends up third. So it'll be real. Basically, the race was between now and the finish. It's pretty much even here. And it'll be interesting to see how everybody plays the weather here. And again, you've got thick, strong cumulus, but it's almost a line of clouds, but it's overdeveloped. There hasn't been sun on the ground here for a very long time. The sun on the ground is over here, and that's quite a deviation, and you're also giving up the high ground. And this is, probably going to be, this is the valley here, so it's not quite as strong. So what are we doing? 37 to 1. Doug's got 45 to 1 for 27 miles. We're going fast, 136, 143. What's Doug doing? Doug's doing 126, so a little slower. Keep Doug in the shot there. So Papa 7 looks like he's deviating to the right a little bit. This is actually the first time that I've replayed this. So Doug, once again, the guy's incredible. 9 knots, 3,500 feet. On his own over there. What do we get? 6.6 knots for 1,300 feet. And it's kind of broken cumulus here. So you got stronger cumulus over here. You've got the higher altitude sort of line of clouds here, but you're not sure if it's going to work or not. And Doug is over here in what I remember being very strong cumulus with lots of sun on the ground. So this is interesting. You can see the brains starting to snap. Tom Kelly here is turned to the right. He's probably going to the stronger clouds to the right of this line. You have stronger clouds over here, mush here, and then really strong clouds here, but you think they look like they were kind of dying. And I remember this vividly. I wish I had a picture to show you. So there I bailed out, and I'm going to the right hard. So that's almost 90 degrees off course. Tom is 30 degrees off course or so. 7 Victor came over here and has now turned hard left, so there must have been something that looked decent over here that Gary and Ray are going for. Miss. And back to the left of course line now, so deviated over for this cloud and it didn't work. These guys are lower though, they're going faster and they're lower. So 7 Victor. Let me pause here to take a look. Well, whatever it was here, he wasted a lot of time. So again, this stuff over here, I know this in hindsight, it looked good, but you had a question mark about it, and clearly it's not working very well. We'll see what Doug gets. He's definitely over in the sun over here. And struggling to get up here. Another miss for me there. I'm up above Ray, so I've had a little bit better run. I'm quite a ways above 4 Bravo, although he's had a little bit. And then here's Papa 7, Gary Edner. And Doug got so high off that last climb, he's still at 13,000 feet, and he's coming back into the mountain now. So that was high enough to get to the mountain. So now I remember this. Let's see, 4 Bravo here is climbing at 4.5 knots, so he's taking about a half of the normal climb value for the day. I'm getting sort of zero sync here, a 32-mile glide. Is that the one that shows the glide? Anyway, 126 to 1, so I'm getting some energy here. I'm over the mountains, I'm under the thick clouds. They're definitely not as strong as they look. Gary's out here in the valley a little bit. He's not over the high ground, and looking for clouds down a line here. I don't remember what he was seeing there, but I do remember what I was thinking. I'm committed to the ridge. I'm committed to flying underneath the strongest clouds, and but it's not working. And you can see here, I haven't found a climb that's good in a long time. So here I get 5.6 knots for 500 feet. Maybe 60% of 70% of what we've been getting on average throughout the day. And just for the sake of it, I mean, 4 Bravo came in underneath me. He's at 11.4, and I got up to almost 13.4. So I'm 2,000 feet above Rick. So I've done well somehow on him, and sort of a 3-horse race now. Doug, Gary, myself, and then Rick. Here's Ray Gimme. And Doug's going right over Mount Grant here, right over the high ground. Doug's still at 11,000 feet, or I guess he's down to 11.4 there. He's pretty close over those ridges. I'm at 13.4. You can see Papa 7 there. He's right down. He's below Mount Grant and going to the back side. And you can see the wind direction here. There's I don't know, 10, 15 miles per hour of wind coming from the west here. So here's the scenario. I'm nervous about getting up, and I'm probably thinking about, outlets to land. That there's a lot of overdevelopment. The sun is way out over here, and I don't have any markers or gliders that I can really see out in front of me. I'm thinking of just running this ridge down as far as I can, and then kicking out to the sun, climbing up and getting back. I know there's that airport there. I know there's the Hilton Ranch over here, and of course Hawthorne over in this valley. But it's a little bit scary here at this point. I had no idea that Doug and Gary were this far ahead. And I think what you're going to see here is I'm coming out to a big Q. That's quite a deviation. I want to be going this way to the left. But eventually here I jump out, I think, and finally find a decent cumulus cloud that I'm ready to commit to. So there it is. You can see Rick following along. And hit that cloud, and what do we get? Yeah, pretty good one. 8.5 knots. And I take it up for 3,500 feet. Definitely going to save the day. And Rick comes along and hits 10 knots for 6,000 feet. Ah, lucky dog. So anyway, I found us a good climb here, and I'm going to probably get up to 15,000 feet with this. So there is sun on the ground out here, and it is looking better. This is the overdevelopment over here, and somehow Doug and Gary are making that work. So once I got up here to 15,000 feet or so, I'm just bumping through the clouds, Ray Gimme catching back up a little bit. Doug's already made his turn and is headed for home. And you can see here the blue line, let me scroll down to it a little bit, is where I go, and obviously that point is where Doug goes. So Doug went further into the first turn, probably 7, 8, 9 miles there, and further into the final turn. So he's just faster. He simply went farther. Let's look at the risk that he took. He's still high, so somehow he's made it work. He's at 13,000. I'm way behind, only 1,500 feet higher at 15,000. So he's not terribly low. He's not in a huge amount of struggle. So this is a live active airspace here, and it's sort of interesting noting maybe a small mistake, but you can see Gary Ittner not only went past where Doug went, but he went, what's that? This is a 20-mile radius of 2 miles, 2.5 miles outside the cylinder, and he's also right behind this airspace, which you can't touch. He must have found a really good cloud there to go after, and it looks like, yeah, but it's only 5.1 knots. It wasn't that good. So he gave up a little bit of distance and time there in doing that, which is, and I only beat him by a tiny little bit, so that's probably it. He had flown better to this point. He just goofed up there a little bit. Whoops. So Doug and Ray taking a little climb over there. Let me pause real quick. So Doug 7.3 knots and Ray 8.2 knots. So there's still plenty of lift underneath this, and I think I was about 15 minutes over at this point, and I've learned from the mistake I made a few days ago that the UDI tremendously underestimates speed. So I wanted to be 15-20 minutes over because I knew I was going to gain something, and I ended up gaining all of that back and finishing 13 seconds over. So absolutely perfectly, but it's an incredibly inaccurate, non-exact science in trying to predict these things. Oh, I actually did find a climb back here. So 9 knots for 1,200 feet. So it's working in the sun here on the edge of this overdevelopment over the high ground. You can see Doug here. Doug's up to 15.3 as I am, 15.4, and it's a race for home now. And Doug is, even though he went quite a bit further, he's going to be 4 minutes early at this point, but he still wins by 5 miles per hour with all that distance that he's done. See Frank Painter, he only got to here just a little bit past Mount Grant and is headed home already. And this is just screaming right now. 120 knots into the wind, so I'm probably doing quite a bit faster in indicated and true airspeed. So true airspeed 125, indicating 100. I was probably going probably going 200 kph most of this thing, so 120. So I'm just bumping the clouds back in. So looking back at the gang here, 9-8 Pete Alexander, who was 4th for the day, Papa 7, who is flying really fast but just had that little bit of extra distance. And Doug Jacobs right here, Dennis Linekin leading it out for home. And I'll speed it up. I don't think anybody has any big problems, but starts to blue out here in the valley on the way home, and I think Doug maybe had to deviate around the high ground here a little bit, but On this one, I'm fortunate enough to bump up high enough here to just go straight over the pretty much the tallest part of the pine nuts here and bring it on in. Doug always finishing better here, right down to he's 2,000 feet high, but here I am, you know, almost 3,000 feet high. 5,700 is the is a thousand foot floor. And here's the rest of the gang. So, just real quick, back to the scores. First, Doug Jacobs, 98.7 or 98.8, 292. I did roughly 4 miles an hour less, although I almost did the same distance. So I guess he didn't fly that much farther than me, but he did that though, even though he finished 3 minutes early. He still had a 98 mile an hour average, so it almost seems like the math isn't quite working out there, but whatever. Third was Gary Ittner, who made that mistake of maybe going a little bit outside the Hawthorne turn, which probably cost him a little bit, as I only beat him by just a tiny bit, just 3/4 of a mile an hour. And then fourth, Pete Alexander, U.S. World Team pilot, really good flight. And fifth was Rick Andrebo in 15-meter ASW 27. So a little bit of insult to injury there when the 15-meter guys are so close. But this was a strong day, so the 15 meters were certainly in their element. All right. Oh, I just remembered. I was going to go back and show the statistics. So let's see here. So here are my high-level general statistics for the task. A 51 mean LD, 14 glides, 21.9 mile average glide. Obviously 14 glides, 14 thermals. Average climb rate of, where is that? 7.5 knots was the average for the day. So now let's take a look at Doug. Whoops. So Doug, only 11 thermals, 3 less thermals, a 65 mean LD, what was mine again? 51. So 20% at least. 8 knot average, so 3/10 stronger average, and yeah, I mean that's interesting. Let's go over to Papa 7. So a 64 LD, a really long average glide, 3 less glides than I had, same as Doug, and an average climb rate of 7.2, so a little less. But I have a feeling here with those 11 glides and the 64 mean LD, so he's just doing better in a straight line. If Gary didn't make that mistake, going a little bit too far out of the Hawthorne turn, he would have been very close to Doug. Let's look at 9.8 real quick. 57 mean LD, 14 glides, same as me. Average climb rate of 6.1, so a little less than I had. And yeah, that's it. But always take a look at these statistics, and generally it's really good to look at the the percentage of circling. So 19%. Sorry about that. Real quick, another really good statistic to look at is the total percentage of circling time, sort of between the pilots. So 19%, that's almost extraordinary for thermal flying. In Ionia, you know, we're looking at 30% or something like that. You know, sort of East Coast flying, but 19% is really good. Let's kick it over to Doug. 14%. 7 Tango, 20%. Papa 7, 15%. So Doug and Gary had 5% less circling time. So more time going straight, longer glides, more efficient glides, all that sort of stuff. So that's another interesting statistic to look at really quickly. All right, that is day 5. Thanks for watching.